Welcome, welcome everybody to another Tuesday night in the spotlight. Tonight, I'm so excited. I have joining us Daren James, and we're just here to have a conversation with each other. Daren is a proud father, husband, out-of-the-box thinker, and a lifelong learner. He takes a keen interest in spirituality and the understanding of the liberal arts and sciences. Daren believes that we are all destined for great things, and no matter what, we all have a purpose. To each his own, but to the universe, we are all one. This oneness he sees as his reason to continuously focus on the mindfulness of others. Daren has taken a path to understanding a philosophy of life which embraces spiritual growth, open-mindedness, and healthy being. Self-love and awareness are only the beginning of enlightenment. So thank you so much, Daren, for joining us here. I'm so happy that we get to have this conversation because you're actually the reason I started in the spotlight, because I wanted to get you on here. So I think it's awesome that you're here. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy I was able at the time to be on here. So I just felt like just having a conversation would be nice. And it was actually interesting that when we were talking last, I saw this guy, right? So I saw this guy by the bus stop. So he was just standing up by the bus stop. So I was like, that's interesting. But I had a chit chat with him. But before that, I decided to message some friends. And I said to myself, I told him, hey, I just saw this guy standing by the bus stop. So the first friend indicated to me, well, why is he just there? Maybe he doesn't have a job, in these COVID times. The other one said, maybe he's looking for trouble, behave yourself. But then I stood back and I smiled because I'm at the bus stop myself. And I spoke to him, and the guy was literally just waiting for a bus. And I did that, in fact, because I wanted to see perspective. Because perspective is different for everyone. Perspective is based on your environment, your experiences, and everything in general. It's just that it affects everything we do, for us to think clearly, for us to be in tune with the universe, I call it. So I just felt I needed to talk about perspective with you today because I think it's something that a lot of people tend to forget.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so.
Absolutely, because when we are coming at something, just as the bus example that you just gave, we can look at someone, anyone, and if we're in a place of, I guess, feeling lack, we might look at them and go, why are they not working? Why are they just standing there?
Yeah.
But if we're in a place of, I guess, love and understanding, we might go, does he need help? Or
exactly,
he might just simply be going to just grab the bus. It might not have anything to do with lack or abundance whatsoever. It's all in, I guess, having that conversation with them.
So it's kind of interesting you say that, because right now I feel that in the world we have very high stress levels. Okay, now since everybody is at a high stress level, like they're balancing the frequency, all the energies, it's all over the place, and we tend to just grab on to the quickest thing, and that I feel that's where we lose sight of a lot of things, even our day-to-day goals. We tend to lose sight of everything because we lack focus, we lack clarity, we lack perspective, we lack our why. Lots of us go through life without a why, and then later on in life try to figure out what's my why. The why comes back to perspective. I could become let's say I was a nurse. I could become a nurse because I want to help people, or I want to become a nurse because I could work long hours and make lots of money. You get what I'm saying? So which one will give me the balance of life? The person who just helps people, lives a life that they're content with, or the person who wants to work 60-hour weeks just because they're a nurse and they believe they could make money. Yeah, that's the way I look at it when you really talk about perspective and people's why. Especially right now, since, as I say, the world is all over the place. And what is your why? Right now, all of us are in a 360. We tend to, like, people are losing jobs, people are searching, everybody's looking for something. To be honest, they're looking for something in everything, in my opinion, when you look at it. And the why isn't there. Okay? That why comes from a passion. Like, what's your passion? And even if you have that passion and that passion doesn't really have action to it, it means absolutely nothing,
Yeah.
because we all have passions. Like, if you really look at it, we talk about tons of things in our lives, tons of things over and over and over. These are a lot of passions. I think in my life, I could be a carpenter, I could be a doctor, I could be an electrician, I could be many things. But it's what you're really passionate about that you actually put the action to, is what you really focus on.
Yeah. Now, I know you were saying there's a lot of people who don't even have their why.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how would you suggest that people find their why?
Ah,
How do people
that's
break that down?
okay. From my perspective, the
Yes.
why. It's kind of interesting. Questioning yourself. First things first. What do you really think about? What do you really like? Some people, it's interesting. Okay, for example, when I was a kid, okay, I would have toys. I'd have a police vehicle. I would be playing. I'd do all of that. I did all of that, but then my parents said I need to go to university. I need to make something of that myself, etc. But the joke was, as a kid, I was already gravitating towards something. It was being a cop, being
Mm.
somebody of service, being that individual. But then I find that in our lives, we forget about that kid inside of us. That's the person that actually brings out that why.
Mm.
And to me, it's connecting with that inner child, as they call it, that most people don't do. And they forget their why because they're trying to please an environment around them versus pleasing themselves.
Yes. Yes. And then you have to like consciously, and I know we've talked about this already, but it's like consciously undoing and unlearning everything that has been taught to you, because half the stuff we do, is it even who we are? Or is it just
Exactly.
something that we do because this is what we think we're supposed to be doing?
It exactly. So unlearning is just so tricky because we have to figure out how we learned it in the first place, where the source. Because we could unlearn something 50 times over, but if we don't know the source for ourselves, it's difficult. For example, some sources could be environment. You're in a situation where the environment plays a heavy impact, and you could try to change things over and over and over, but it's difficult due to the environment. But the instant you step away from the environment, you blossom. But it takes somebody with good understanding, somebody who's able to step outside of themselves. And it's very difficult to step outside of yourself when you're judging yourself and you're not allowing yourself to love yourself and direct yourself, because you can't really help others if you're not within yourself.
Absolutely.
And to find that why, we really need to get inside of ourselves, find that inner child, talk to that inner child. It might feel crazy, but if we sit down in a quiet place, nothing's around us, TV's off, you find your quiet place and you talk to yourself, you'll hear that voice. We'll call it our spirit, we'll call it the subconscious, conscious, whatever you like to call it. I recommend for myself, anytime something's really bothering me or I need to find an answer, the last hour to 2 hours of my night, I don't really watch TV. I don't do any social media. I talk, like, I figure out stuff for myself. I talk to myself or I talk to somebody about what I want. Now I know I'm activating everything consciously. Now I know when I lay down subconsciously, my subconscious will take over through sleep, through everything. You answer those questions. Exactly. So there was a situation where my friend gave me, I can't really write it down, but he gave me two numbers, 4 space -0 -7, but there's a space then the 7. And the answer was 14. For the love of me, I've done math millions of times. I couldn't figure it out at all. I went to bed. I woke up 5 o'clock in the morning, smiling, laughing. I got on my phone. I'm like, I have the answer. And I wrote it down because I spent the last few minutes of my night trying to figure out something, and then my subconscious connected with the universe, allowing me to get the answer. No matter how simple it is, just know that your subconscious amplifies your conscious life, searching for answers within the universal realm for you. We'll call it dreams, we'll call it many other things, but it's all there for us.
Absolutely love that, because it's actually one of the easiest ways to problem solve anything that we're getting stuck with in our lives is to take that time with yourself. And I agree, before bed, it's perfect. That's when we consciously meditate every single night, is right before bed, and then typically fall to sleep with it. But the answers that reveal themselves for myself, they often come in really vivid dreams that I have to kind of decipher and figure out. But sometimes it's like, as you just said, where you just wake up and suddenly you have this answer and it's like, how did I not see it before?
Yeah. So for me, that's one way that I find my why.
Mm-hmm.
I ponder on a situation, and then after pondering on the situation, I start to think of my how. Because thinking of the why is one thing, the how is the next thing. For example, there's one time I wanted to do some schooling. I didn't know where the money was coming from, how I was going to go to the school to do it, what school. I couldn't figure out anything for myself, but I knew I wanted to go to school. I focused on that. And then the hows. I had to break down all the hows and then narrow those hows down into my action.
Okay.
Okay. And I use the example for that as a, let's say, a magnifying glass. Okay. I like this example. You take a magnifying glass and you hold it up. As far as you want, you'll just see this big image, whatever, from the light coming on. Now you start to focus it and focus it and focus it. There will come a point where if you're too close, you're out of focus. If you're too far, you're not near into focus. But there's that point where everything aligns and it is focused. So that's how I look at the whys. I take the why, the how, and the action I want, and I look at it all at the same level and see are they balancing out each other. Because for the school thing, it could be, hey, I want to become a doctor. Yay, I can get into the university to be the doctor. Yay, but I have no money. If there's no money, it will never work out, right? There's avenues for money, which makes it different, but we just need to figure out that everything needs to be aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were figuring out your house for the schooling,
Mm.
because I know you've done a ton of schooling. So when you were figuring out the house and how will I get the money and how will this work and how will this work, did you find that the universe was surprising you with new hows as you stepped into the actionable steps?
Oh, the universe gave me so many hows. I didn't even know how to handle it. so,
Okay.
so it was funny that the first time I applied to a school, they were offering the fee was low. So I said, okay. Then it became scholarships. Then it became grant, and everything was just coming randomly. But the biggest factor is I did not lose my focus because I had an avenue I've already selected, but then all these other avenues started to come around my why. But
Oh,
I've already chose a how, but many hows started to come. But what I needed to do was say no to those hows to keep myself focused. It's like if you start in, let's say, your undergrad or whatever program, certificate, diploma, doesn't matter. Your first semester, you get into a Bachelor of Science. Then you find out you could get into engineering. You leave the Bachelor of Science, then you go into engineering. Then you found out you could go into med school. You leave it, you go into med school. Guess what's happening? You're
you're
still the
losing
same
your
place.
focus.
Yes, you're still the exact same place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how effective a why, a how is, but focus is a lot, but if focus is nothing without clarity. You have to be clear with what you're seeing and what you want, because everything will come your way.
Awesome. Now, how do you keep such faith? Because I honestly don't know that I've ever known you to doubt anything. Like you just, you know,
Okay.
or outwardly you're not showing that you doubt.
So it's funny because Colleen tells me the same thing, but I doubt. There is doubt.
Okay.
The difference is which okay, I'll use it this way. Which one weighs more? A pound of sugar or a pound of water? Obviously, it's a pound.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what do I need at the time when I'm thirsty? I can't really drink sugar, water. So in the times when I doubt, I look at it as what I want is worth more than the other side of things. Okay. Every time I think that there's a negative to anything that I'm doing, I look at the positive. It's $500 more. Yes, it's $500 more, but it's one step closer to what I want to do.
Mm.
The sun is really hot. Yes, but I'm 5 more steps to the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that type of perspective once again that I use. I sort of like try to mind hack myself, trick myself into believing that what I'm doing is right for me.
Yeah. So, along with those doubts comes fears. And I know I had joked about this prior to us getting on to the live, because one of my fans on here was asking about whether or not you had overcome your fear of roller coasters yet. So, can you explain to us how you got over your fear of roller coasters?
In fact, let me tell the partial story.
Okay.
I was actually scared of my life of roller coasters
Yeah.
because when I was a kid, and I don't know if I ever told you this, it's always when I was a kid, there was a Ferris wheel, I think they call it. I don't know if there's a different name for it, but they call it a Ferris wheel. It's the one that goes in circles and you're
Yeah.
inside the little car. Yeah. I was in one of those when I was young, and the power got cut off.
Mm.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
I believe that traumatized my life.
Yeah.
I never went on one after that. And when the power went, it was windy. So we just kept swinging back and forth until the power came back on. And then I came down and I have glasses. So I didn't have my glasses. Everything was a big blur for me. I didn't know I was a kid. And I
Wow.
was in the cab with somebody else, not even with my family. So, John,
It wasn't actually John who asked me this, it was Tara.
oh, Tara.
Yeah.
Oh, so after this, when I went on the roller coaster, it was tough. I realized that there's other things in play, the mechanics. There's other forces in play. So I had to allow myself to release myself from trying to be in control.
Mm.
It's very difficult for us to do, but releasing yourself, trying not to have control over things, it's very hard, but it's very, the word I'm looking for, fulfilling. The instant you realize, for example, a relationship, you're not in control of that person.
Yeah.
You're doing everything. You just have to let go. When you let go of things, I'm even getting chills saying that right now. When you let go of things, you embrace it more because you allow it to do what it's supposed to do. So that roller coaster, I knew I dropped down, I would be safe. I
Yeah.
could look. The instant I didn't look, I got scared because I don't know what's happening. I just had to let go. And that's what I did. Letting go was tough, but I did it.
Yeah, you absolutely did. You rode all of the big roller coasters that day.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was awesome. But I think it's such a great analogy for moving through fears in life in general, whether it's a roller coaster or stepping into a new job or going back to school or relationships, any of it.
yeah,
It really is about letting go of that control
yeah.
that we all try to have, no matter, we're all human. So we all try to control things to our perspective of how we think
Yeah.
things should.
And you just saying that. So before I came on the call, I was cutting my grass. Now I've literally lost control because I said I'll allow the grass to just grow and do what it's doing. Then the weeds took over, everything's taking over. But what can I do? If I decide to be in control, I'd be picking weeds out of the ground, I feel, until the end of summer every single second.
Yeah. My
Exactly.
grandfather actually did that. He would go around on his hands and knees and pull out dandelions. And he had like, I believe it was a 5 acre lawn. So it was
Yeah.
a huge lawn. It wasn't small.
Wow.
And every day he had a bucket and a spoon that he used specifically to get the dandelions out. And my sister and I went out and blew all of the white ones to create more dandelions. So
Oh, that's an amazing story. Yeah, so for me, it's just, I don't know. There's just so much going on. And as we said, the dandelions, and you brought back memories, it brought something into my head, right? So a lot of people, we talked about the fears and everything. So a lot of people try, and it's a fear. We all have that fear. The future is a big fear. Okay, everybody wants to know the future or their future or what they're doing now is for the future, and they hold on to the past.
yeah.
So today I'm actually going to say it. The future is all your imagination. It sounds very weird and counterintuitive, but the future is your imagination. The past is only a memory. The present is what matters.
Yes.
Okay? It sounds very strange, but what is the future? We're trying to create an image of something, of ourselves 50 years from now, 70 years from now. Creating that image, the only reason that image gets aligned, because presently we're navigating ourselves towards that image.
Yeah.
And the
It's
past,
absolutely true.
yeah,
And so often when we're like focused on the future,
yes.
we're worrying about all of the things that we think might happen or might not happen in the future rather than what we actually want to see happen for ourselves.
And guess what happens? We don't even enjoy the present.
Yeah.
And I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of that to the highest level. I was hustling, trying to do all these things for the future because my perspective of myself wasn't myself. My perspective of myself is how other people were viewing me,
Mm.
right? So you spend a lot of time creating an image of yourself.
Yeah.
But that image you're creating, if you're not too aware, that image you're creating is not for you, of yourself, but of what you think other people expect you to be.
Yes.
Then what happens when you want to be yourself? Nobody believes it's really you.
Mm.
And they look at you strange, like, oh, that's not the person I knew, or you're acting strange. I'm not acting strange. It's me. I'm that same individual. The problem was I spent a lot of time creating that image for you to love me. I'll use the term love,
Yeah.
generalize it, for you to love me, for me to be that person that will be around you.
Mm.
But truth be told, lots of us have images. Lots of us have 10 different versions of ourselves. But
Absolutely.
can we accept ourselves?
Absolutely. So, how do you align with your truest self then?
Okay. How do I align? So for me, I accepted my flaws,
Mm.
and I accepted the flaws as that's who I am. First thing I did, it was one of the hardest things to do because my ego had a field day with me. My mind tricked me like there was no tomorrow. I literally felt like I wasn't who I was supposed to be.
Mm.
Because the instant, I'll give an example. Let's say you're somebody, let's say you're in the wrong crowd, per se. That wrong crowd puts you in a situation where you need to spend a lot of money or do these type of things, right? So now you've created an image. That image can never be fulfilled because it's not who you are, it's not your lifestyle. But the instant these people see you a particular way, you try to put on the image again. You
Mm.
know how exhausting it is wearing two hats? It's very
Absolutely.
exhausting. We are
Absolutely.
not we are not meant to wear two hats. If the universe accepts everybody for who they are, okay? And I look at it as if this is me on the right and this is you on the left. and we're in harmony and we understand each other. If you pull left, I may tug, but I go with you. If I pull right, you may tug, but we go because we're on the same wavelength. We don't affect each other, we balance off each other.
Mm.
But if I am not myself and I'm going forward, but the people I'm talking to are going back, it's this seesaw effect where I'm jumping back and forth. I'm not aligning with anything, right? So
Yeah.
I'm the one really losing because I'm never balanced.
Ooh, I love that. That is like a
Right?
great image of it.
Yes. So I don't know. I try to balance myself, and it may sound very weird, but when I meet people, and people tell me I'm sort of harsh at times, but when I meet people, I give everybody a fair opportunity. But if I'm not aligning with you, I feel that you might have an impact on me that's negative. I have the right to not be around you. It's not that I find anything wrong with you or we're not compatible or anything. It's just I have the right to keep what I believe is my balance in check. Because if I'm keeping my balance in check, your balance is. And the instant we try to change one another, that's where the problems begin.
Yes. Yes. So because I can feel inside of me, as you say that, there's been so many times in my life where I thought I need to make these relationships work, make these
Yeah.
relationships work, because this is almost a societal expectation or a parental expectation or whatever expectation it might be. But it just seems like the relationships are not working,
Yeah.
right? So and I'm just wondering about other people that are on the live right now as well, when there's relationships that aren't working. And I understand what you're saying about I have the right to go, this is going to knock me off balance so I can walk away. But do you have any advice for people who might be feeling that expectation that's coming in and how they can walk away within themselves?
It's it's a difficult one, but one word you harped on there was expectation.
Yeah.
Okay. Expectation is very, very, very powerful, and it can be a positive and a very powerful negative.
Mm.
Okay. For example, the expectation is when we leave school, we get a particular, note my quote, particular job,
Mm.
right? Where you make lots of money. But what if I'm making $10 an hour and I'm very happy with myself, but I'm not meeting the expectation? I stress on the expectation. It's because what other people expect of you.
Yeah.
In situations where you're literally not happy and there's an expectation associated with it, you got to, the source. If there's an expectation, more than likely you know the source of that expectation. Okay? Example, did some kids who go to school and they feel that the program's not for them or they want to drop out, but they never want to come talk to their parents.
Yeah.
You can. But that expectation is something that you put upon yourself. Okay? You got to step away from that expectation, step away from everything, and ask yourself, is there a source of how you feel?
Mm.
Talk to that source. If you're in a situation where you believe that it's too much for you, there are many avenues, whatever the case is, if it's help avenues, whatever, but you need to take the time and realize that whatever weight that's on you, you're putting that weight.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee, I'm almost certain that if two people are in a situation and one feels a heavy burden on them, the other person does not feel that exact burden.
Mm.
They may have a burden, but everybody's burden is different
Yeah.
because everybody treats themselves a particular way. Everybody carries their emotions a particular way because expectation is nothing. Emotion, that's what really damages us, right? Fear is an emotion. The roller coaster, I should have never been scared because common sense tells me that I won't, and nothing will happen to me,
Yeah.
right? When we have alarm systems at our home, it's fear because somebody instilled a fear that somebody may come into
Yeah.
your house. But growing up, we left the doors open, right?
Yeah.
So it's just how we take that emotion in, how we deal with emotion, and how we allow ourselves to be intelligent with that emotion.
Mm.
Because if we let it take over, our judgment gets clouded. Remember, then we have to go back to focusing,
Yeah.
clearing our minds, choosing the right perspective. Is this situation right for me? Is this situation bad for me? I'm taking myself out of the situation. I'm looking in. Okay, I'm looking in at this situation. Oh, that's me. How is this affecting me? Oh, this is how I'm being treated. I switch the other side. I'm that person. Oh, maybe I did this. Because I always look at myself. Everything I do seems that it takes very long. Because when I'm doing it, I look at it from my perspective. I look at it from the person's perspective. I look at it from an outside perspective. Man, I even look at it from top, looking at the perspective of the two people in the situation and the person looking in at the situation. And I'm looking at all three of them. And that's how I'm treating every situation. So sometimes I go into la la land and I stay, I think, and I'm like, okay, these are the pros, these are the cons. Which one of them actually align? And then that's how I deal with my situation. And
That's
most people,
amazing.
yeah, most people won't do that. Most people will say, oh, I feel hurt. This is my situation.
Yeah.
As, as long as you do that, you're in a situation now that you haven't allowed the other person emotions to be expressed. You
Yeah.
haven't allowed that balance. You're just jumping back and forth. The same
Yeah.
situation where you're jumping back and forth. You're not allowing the person's emotions to bring you to the left, your emotions to bring them back to the right. You're not getting balance. So yeah, it's just one of those. It's just try. It's hard. It's extremely hard. It took me a very, very, very long time to treat myself with love, with kindness, as I should. But you have to, when you're in a situation, look, especially emotional, deep emotion, look at it from your perspective, but allow yourself to look at it from the person's, and then you look at it from a neutral perspective. And
Yeah.
in that way, it will be easier. And over time, it becomes easier to handle situations of high emotion.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important too when looking at those situations that we're not looking at them as someone being right or someone being wrong, someone being good, someone being bad,
Yeah,
that it's just simply a situation.
exactly.
And it's our emotions that we've attached to it that make it good or bad in our perspective.
Yeah. Even to show you how emotion is just one of those things. When we succeed in life, our why, we get passionate about it, we attach the action to it. That action was a habit created, and then we move on.
Yeah.
What gave us the success? Our passion. When we decide to be destructive in whatever shape or manner, what gave us that? The emotion, that same passion. So passion is both negative and positive. It's just how we allow it. I don't use the term control us. We're controlling it. But most times people allow it to control them.
Mm, yeah.
And that's where the the domino effect occurs. We never take that 5 second deep breath, relax, and then begin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, coming back on the topic of the why and kind of finding what that passion is for yourself, um, are you defining more so what your own passion is right now?
Yes. So so yes, I as you can tell, I have a passion for understanding situations, people, and for me, I take it to heart the understanding of myself.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I can actually talk about all these things is because I've focused a lot on myself. And that focusing on myself, understanding myself, allowed me to be in love, allowed me to get married, allowed me to take care of my daughter with love, unconditional love,
Yeah.
because you have to dig deep down inside. And that why, and me doing everything is for that why.
Mm,
It's just being directed, the readings, the understanding, the school. It's all part of my why.
awesome. Awesome. Now, as we're going through this COVID thing, because it does feel some days like it's just never going to end, and other days it feels like it's already over, but we're still kind of in this protected phase or whatever. Um, how would you suggest for people to find their way back out of COVID? Because I know for a lot of people, it was almost like COVID happened and people went down. And we started dealing with shadows. We started dealing with all of these fears and traumas. And then the news started happening about so many different things that were being exposed that have been there for a long time. But all of this stuff brings up even more fears and angers and all of that. So, how would you suggest for people to move through that to step back into their whys?
You know what it is? In my opinion, COVID did something that a lot of us did not expect, which was the negative, but a lot of us are not looking for, which is a positive. And this can help you with your why.
Mm.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
The instant, it's like taking a chair and flipping the chair over. Is it still a chair? Can that chair become a table? Can that chair become a stool? Can that chair become part of a garden? Can we break apart the wood? So right now, we're in a situation where since things have turned into multiple avenues, sitting back and thinking of what can I do in this current situation? Some people, they've turned to doing some online sales stuff, okay? Because right now, if you're doing something you were never passionate about, being at home, which I was, being at home, you now have an opportunity. I know people, they build decks. They never knew that part of them existed.
Mm.
I know people who started gardening. I know people who started car washing services. I have a friend of mine who was in a particular situation. He's doing food delivery now, and he's on top of the world. He's posted so many things. I've even gone to buy from the places that he's talking about.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is, as difficult as it is, and I know it's difficult, separate yourself. Put the blinders on CNN. I'm calling it out. So we'll call it media. Put
Yeah.
the blinder on one side, put the blinder on the other side of people who are impacting you
Yeah.
because they're saying particular things. We already know the situation, it's obvious. How can I make a change? What can I do? What direction am I going? And is this a direction I can sustain?
Mm.
Everybody's situation is different with family, with finance. It's a given.
Yeah.
But you have to sit down and figure out where you want to go. Remember spending that 2 hours in the night,
Yeah.
going to bed, thinking about it. Some people may figure it out in 2 weeks, some person a day, but that doesn't really, it's not about how long you take, it's about completion.
Yeah.
Because most of the time people don't realize it, but yeah, they might talk about the person who broke the records. They may talk about all of these things in races, but at the end of the day, sometimes they don't really talk about certain people, but the event, the sport, nothing like that would happen without them.
Mm.
So now it's just an opportunity for you not to worry about what other people are doing, but take the opportunity to find within yourself what you really like, what you really want to do, and
Yeah.
take that, since you have the time, and work with it slowly and spending the time building emotion, building anger, because it will have a negative impact on you spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah.
And then for you to actually be able to think, progress, analyze, and do what you need to do with your why, you need to be sound of mind.
Yes.
So that's the way I look at it.
I love it. And yeah, because I find with this whole COVID thing, it for myself, it's brought up a lot of those um, I shaved the back of my head last week because
Oh,
it was
okay.
something that I've never done before. It's just
Yeah,
the upper part, so no one can even see it. But it
yeah.
was like, well, I've never done it because I was told that that's not what women are supposed to do. So part of it was
Okay.
like, right? But
Yeah,
it
I
was,
was like, okay.
and I did it, and John had to fix it when he got home from work because it's the back of my head, so it kind of looked like Odin's after he shaved his head on his own, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
Um, but it's been about undoing. It's been about unlearning. It's been about getting rid of all of these, I'm going to say distractions that
yeah.
I just willingly allowed to have happen in my life and
Mhm.
getting back to the basics of who I am. And I feel
Yeah,
like so many of us are actually going through that where we're releasing these distractions, where we're allowing ourselves to just let go of all of that and connect in
mm,
with the heart, the inner child, whatever it is you want to
yeah,
call it,
yeah.
because this is where the truth is now. It's not in the media. It's not on social media. It's not from other people. It's only
No,
from within us.
it's true. So, for example, I decided to go outside one day. It was a nice morning. Grass was a bit dewy. So I walked outside barefoot, walked on the grass, just watching the sun relaxing. Colin's like, Darren, why are you outside barefooted? But in my mind, I'm like, you know how nice the dew feels on my feet right now. The soil feels just excellent. I felt so refreshed. It was like I was balancing myself
Yeah,
by just grounding myself to the soil, planting my feet, and just allowing the sun to come in from one direction and the energy just to go out through my feet. So
love it.
it was just a refreshing situation. And speaking of, we spoke about the COVID stuff. I think that people tend to overanalyze. I think that we spend a lot of time trying to live in the what ifs.
Yeah,
We have a There's thousands of what ifs we could live in. But the reality is we shouldn't take a path that we believe is not for us just to figure out that it's not for us. It's like walking down in the streets at night. You see a path that's all lit up. You see the path to the right or whatever, that's pure darkness. And you decide, you know what, I should walk down that street just to see what's going on. But you saw a lit path. Maybe during the day, you could take that path. So this is a similar situation where we tend to technically know what's right for us, what we believe is right, but we just want to try it anyways.
yep.
It's human nature, but sometimes we just don't need to. And we need to focus to get where we want to go and know that we've reached where we really want to reach so that we've done it. Okay. Thinking of other paths, other avenues, just to say we tried it. Yeah, it's all fun and games until you see somebody gets hurt, right?
Yeah,
So it's not always the right thing to do.
yeah. And I absolutely love what you said there about we don't have to go down a path that we don't want to
Mhm.
find out that it's not what we want.
Yeah,
And I feel like quite often we'll do this. It's like a part of our brain goes, yeah, I know I shouldn't go down this rabbit hole.
yeah,
I know it's not going to make me feel good, but I'm going to just jump down there anyways and try and analyze, try and figure it out, try and figure it out. But it's a distraction.
exactly. It's no different than I don't want to say television and all of that because all of these things can be distracting and can be enhancing. It's how you look at it. Overindulging in anything can be impactful on your life,
Yeah.
no matter what it is,
Yep.
regardless. But we just have to be mindful that the body is a temple, the spirit is the same temple. As long as you want to be connected to the etheric plane, you want to be connected to everything, we have to realize that what we take in literally is what comes out. It's no different than food,
Yeah.
mental food, spiritual food. It all comes in, it comes out in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the way we think, whether it's in our actions, everything actually comes back full circle.
Yeah.
So we just have to be mindful of that. That's the way I look at it. Just have to be mindful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And paying attention to because going back to the television thing,
Yeah.
there's some shows that I can watch and I feel so inspired and
Yeah.
so lit up from just simply numbing myself out and watching those TV shows. I'm just like, wow, that's
Yeah.
impactful for my soul. But for another individual who that's not in alignment with,
Yes.
it can actually make them just feel crummy. So yeah, there's not necessarily a right or a wrong way of doing it. But
Yeah.
again, coming back to what works for you.
Yeah. And then it's what you take out of it, because every TV show, all these things have messages, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
the messaging, I could talk about 90s cartoons that I watch right now. And I said that I polluted my mind literally in the 90s and 80s with certain cartoons. Because when you watch it now, you know it was just not the right thing
Oh
you should
yeah.
have been watching.
I'm surprised 90s TV isn't just banned completely,
Oh,
actually.
I know. So it comes back to, I'm not sure if I told you this. I was watching a movie, I think it's Night School with Kevin Hart. So
Mm.
night school, the message was he went back to night school, he did what he had to do, etc. He lied, whatever the case was. But the whole night school, I literally, I felt like I was watching a documentary, to be honest, because I felt like it resonated with me to the fact of how he learned. Because I felt to myself that I was in a situation where I wasn't learning because I wasn't taught a way that I felt I needed to learn. And the method of learning was not something that really stayed with me. Until later on in my life, I realized that after watching Night School and some other factors, I realized, hey, yeah, I wasn't really taught properly, and there were maybe situations that impacted me learning. But
Mm.
now I figured out that how I learn, which was key, I
Yeah.
literally had to analyze myself to figure out how I learn. And it was very daunting. It took me a lot of failing for me to succeed. And I'll not call it failure, because failure, that's a negative. I did not fail. I was trying to figure out my avenue for learning, and it was difficult. And for the average person, for regular people, whatever the case we want to look at it as, they might call it failure. For society, that's the word. For society, they'll call it you failed. I did not fail. I found myself.
Yeah.
And I felt that that was the happiest thing I did, finding how I truly learned, because everything else for me has become so much easier. The simplest things of putting a table together, whatever the case is, has become so easy because I've allowed myself to learn. Somebody's not forcing me or teaching me to learn. I'm allowing
Mm.
myself.
That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
really awesome, especially knowing how much you've learned just in the short period of time that I've known you.
Yeah.
You've learned a lot of things. I
Yeah.
think every time I talk to you, you're taking another course or you've read a book on this, or
Yeah.
so it's really awesome to see that and to understand that it comes from this place of a self-awareness of how
Yeah.
you learn.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because when you look at how you learn and then you start to learn, you start to connect the dots. Because when you're reading one thing, on let's say spirituality, but you connect to the other thing. For example, it's for chakras, for example,
Yeah.
the different colors of the chakras. And I felt as if, okay, it was just chakras. But then I learned the food you eat, the colors of your food you eat impact you. And I was like, how does that happen? But then if your chakras are a particular color, the food you eat in a particular color, you eat a lot of red, you're affecting your root, and all these factors, and people don't realize it. Some people eat a lot of green and they wonder, oh boy, why am I like that? Right? So you need to realize that everything is so connected that even the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the colors, it's just so impactful. And if we take the time to embrace it for what it is, it becomes so, it makes you feel alive.
Mm-hmm.
because you're so aware of it all that you're allowing it to be and not trying to change it. You're just allowing it to be. And then once it is being, you can be. And it's all connected.
Yes, it's all connected. I love that.
Yeah.
So, just as we start to get to the point of wrapping up, so you talked about having the why,
Yeah.
and then with the why, you come up with your house.
Yes.
With the house, you turn that into action.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the action, where do you go from there?
From the action, we're reaching a goal. So it's not just a why, it's not just the how, it's not just the action. You got to complete it. Completion is key because
Yes.
we could start something, you need to complete it.
Yeah.
Okay. Completion is key in anything we do, no matter how small it is. And on top of that, it's not just completing it, it's actually being proud of yourself. Okay. I realized I spent a lot of time doing a lot of things, but I never actually said to myself, thank you, or went for a thank you dinner, or did something to show appreciation. You do it for people when they succeed, but you
Yeah.
never clap for your own self,
Mm.
which people might say, hey, oh, you're full of yourself. No, 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 no. I am happy.
Yeah.
I've succeeded. I have done something impactful to myself, something that will impact others. You have to. You're your biggest advocate,
Yeah.
right? No one else would be merry for you if you're not happy with yourself, if you don't love yourself, if you don't see yourself a particular way, if you don't perceive things a certain way, if your emotions are not a certain way, if you don't balance yourself, everything's affected.
Mm.
So you have to give gratitude in completion of things. And even better, if you don't do what you think you were supposed to do, don't bring yourself down. Still be thankful for the path that you've taken,
Yes.
because that path that you've taken has allowed you to be where you are today. And
Yes.
people forget that every path you've called negative has brought you on the road to where you sit right now.
Absolutely. You know, when I was younger, my work experience was being a waitress.
Yeah,
Okay. From the time I was 15 till the time I was 24, that was all I had done was waitressing.
yeah,
And I was shameful of myself for not getting this education or that education or whatever. It was just the way life was at the time. But in doing the work that I do now,
yeah,
I was completely trained as a waitress to be able to have conversations with absolute
yeah,
strangers and to serve them with what their needs were. And if I
yeah,
didn't have all of those years as a waitress, I don't know that I'd be able to do the work I do now just
yeah,
because of the skills that I learned from that. Because,
yeah,
yeah, so in hindsight, it was absolutely what I needed to be
yeah,
doing.
yeah. And people fail to realize you have to embrace yourself.
Yes.
If you didn't embrace it, you wouldn't be where you are today. If you hide it, remember I talked about the other image of yourself? If you hide it, somebody cannot embrace you. And
Yes.
that's when the imbalances in the universe happen and people don't really realize it. I'll call it universe, but we're all aligned and we need to keep the balance. So you
Love
have to
that.
accept yourself for who you are, no matter what the situation is, because if you don't accept yourself, no one will accept you. So embrace yourself.
Absolutely. Now, do you have any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with everyone that's on here? A message for the world to hear right now?
So simple, love yourself for who you are. Never believe that what you've done is a mistake. Lessons are learned as long as you allow them to be a lesson. If you don't allow it to be a lesson, it's not a lesson. So allow yourself to love yourself, allow the lessons to be learned. The path that you're on or supposed to be on, you're already on. The path that you're imagining, you're not on that path. You're just creating a mental path.
Mm.
So embrace your now, allow your now to create the future that you want. But just remember, you have to love yourself in the now. If you don't love yourself now, you won't be loving yourself 50 years from now. So love your now. That's my message. Love your now.
I love, I'm like, we got to hashtag that, Daren.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. All right. So thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. If you ever want to come back, just let me know. I hope all of you will join us again next week. We have Lisa Scott joining us, and she will be talking about believing in yourself as a female, as a woman, as a mother, to help you get through to the sacredness of who you are. So kind of along the same lines as what you're talking about, Daren. But so Lisa will be on next Tuesday night. I'll have all of her info posted tomorrow. Have a great night, everyone. And thanks again, Daren.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Okay.